Alright, so I decided to go spoiler with this one because I figured there's no point doing there's very little point doing a standard review because, I mean, let's face it, you're going to go see the movie, you know, you're going to go see it regardless of whether I say it's a great movie, whether I say it's the worst movie ever. No matter what anybody says, you're going to go see the movie. You've already made your mind up that you're going to go see the movie. Even those of you out there who are thinking, you know what, I ain't even that into Star Wars that much, you're probably going to go see the movie as well. And even those of you who like, oh, I hate Star Wars, it's a complete waste of time, you know, even those guys, you're gonna go see the movie, you know. So at some point during its cinematic run, you're going to go see the movie. And if by some miracle you don't see the movie during the time it's in the cinema, you'll watch it on DVD or Blu-ray. It'll probably never be on Netflix or Amazon, but if it ever does, you'll watch it on that too, or, you know, TV, if it ever does appear on TV. Star Wars movies very rarely appear on TV, well, at least in the UK anyway. But you're going to see this movie is what I'm trying to get at. Some point, you're going to go see this movie, you know, unless, you know, you die first or something, you know, you're going to go see this movie. Let me preface this by saying this. I have watched the film exactly once. I watched it last night. Since then, I have watched some other people's opinions on the film as well. So, because I've only watched it once, you know, there may be some stuff that I might have missed during the time, you know, some of the more subtle things I might have missed. But it was quite recently, so I think I still have a pretty decent memory of what I saw. I certainly know how I felt during it, and that's really what I want to talk about in this video. Most videos I watched, people loved it. Most people say they thought it was fantastic, said it was a great film. I watched one video of a guy saying that he walked out about halfway through and he felt it was like feminist propaganda, which yeah, I disagree with. I mean, he made his points when he was talking the video, and I could kind of see where he's coming from, but really, nah, I don't think so. I think he might be reaching a bit too much in that analysis. But what I thought of it, I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was the greatest thing ever. I thought it was okay. It was, as a movie, separating it from, you know, Star Wars and separating it from that whole history and everything that comes with it. Just looking at it as a movie on its own. It's okay. It's a pretty good movie. I mean, it's enjoyable. I'd say there's definitely more things I liked about it than I didn't like. But overall, you know, it was an alright film. It's certainly something that I wouldn't mind watching again. Probably not in a cinema though. Actually, that being said, I do have the unlimited card, so I might go watch it in the cinema since I don't have to pay extra for it right now. If I had to buy another ticket for it, I probably wouldn't go to the cinema to watch it again. So the things that let me talk about the things that I didn't like first, actually. So I'm going to get into some spoilers now. So Kylo Ren, he takes off his mask and he reveals his face as Adam Driver. And when he reveals his face, it's kind of like he just looked like somebody who belonged in like a Dawson's Creek or something, you know, somebody who belongs in some teen comedy. You know, he just looked like a really, you know, good-looking teenager, and it just kind of felt a bit weird, you know, watching him. He's supposed to be like this real badass, and he takes his mask off, and he's just this kid. You know what I mean? It's like when you watch it. I was watching Spider-Man. Was it Spider-Man 2? I think it was Spider-Man 2 of the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans I'm talking about, by the way. When Spider-Man's on the train and they take his mask off, and his mask is off, and people are like, hey, he's like the same age as my son. You know, he just looked like a kid. And it felt a bit weird, but then the more I'm thinking about it, the more, you know, it's like, yeah, it kind of makes sense, you know, in the context of the film, that, you know, he's Han Solo's son, he was seduced by the dark side. So, and then he wasn't really fully trained. I guess he's not really battle tested either. So, I guess it kind of makes sense that he is kind of this, you know, really smooth skinned, good looking guy that probably should be on a L'Oreal advert or something. But yeah, so it kind of makes sense, but it just felt a bit weird when watching it. Maybe it's because, you know, it's not the sort of thing you're used to, but that being said, you don't want too many things that you're used to, so that's not really a complaint. It just, you know, just felt a bit weird. And he did come across a bit too whiny at times as well, you know, like, oh my god, he could have did us. But then again, he's not fully trained, and maybe that's part of it, part of the reason why it just felt a bit weird. Maybe we needed to know a little bit more about Kylo Ren, because all we really know is that from the beginning is that he's not the leader, but he's like this. He's a high-ranking officer in the First Order, and then we find out fairly early on that he's Han Solo's son, and then a little bit later on it's confirmed that it's Han Solo and Leia. And that might sound obvious, I know, but I was kind of hoping that when they mentioned that he was Han Solo's son, I was kind of hoping that, you you know, perhaps Han Solo, maybe he remarried or something, or I don't know if he did marry, because she's still called Leia Organa, so maybe they didn't even marry in the first place. But I was kind of hoping that he was with somebody else and then it has something, because the whole thing about him and Leia, I just felt that would have been obvious, you know, and that's what it went with. But because you know that they split up, or at least they're not together. You get that impression pretty early on. So I was kind of hoping that they'll do something a little bit different, that he's maybe Han Solo's son, but not Leia's son. Maybe Han Solo's with somebody else after Leia. But yeah, they don't go with that, so it doesn't matter. He's Han Solo and Leia's son. That's the story, and whatever. It's not a big deal. It just is, you know. It is what it is. So you know, we know a little bit about him, but I think maybe we needed to know a little bit more about what he's been through, because we get like inklings, and we get the fact that he's kind of struggling with trying to live up to his grandfather, Darth Vader, and perhaps he sees Darth Vader as something more than what Darth Vader even. I mean, Darth Vader was badass, let me be clear on that, but perhaps he sees Darth Vader as something even more than that, as maybe some kind of maybe demigod or something along those lines. But yeah, maybe we just need to know just a little bit more, just a little bit more. But it's not a major complaint. It's more just when you're watching the film, those things just felt a bit weird. So the other things I didn't like, so it made a lot of, one of the biggest complaints that I saw in other videos is that it made a lot of references to the previous films, in particular Star Wars Episode 4, and it makes quite a lot of references. Most of them, though, I felt were okay. I think, well, most ones that I could, in my mind right now, felt were okay. There were times where it did feel a little bit forced and a little bit too pushed, and it's like, yeah, come on, I get it, you know. There were some times like that, but most of it was okay. I think one of the coolest ones was when they're running towards the, I guess like some sort of hover ship or something like that, and Finn is like, oh yeah, how about that ship? You don't see it on the screen, but he's like, how about that ship? And she's Rey is like, oh, that's just junk, it's rubbish. And then the one they're running to blows up. She's like, okay, let's take the rubbish. And they run, and the camera pans aside, and it's Millennium Falcon, and it's like, yeah, awesome. I mean, it didn't make sense that the hatch was down and just like waiting for them to run up, because the story of the Millennium Falcon apparently is that the pawn shop broker in the film, he's supposed to have got it from some guy who stole 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 it from Han Solo, and then that's why how it ended up there. So this got this Millennium Falcon, this freight ship, in this guy's like backyard pretty much, with the hatch down, just like waiting for anybody to go run up it. Like, why would you leave the hatch down? I mean, surely you'd have the hatch up, and then you just use the key or, you know, remote or whatever it is they use to open it when you want to go in. Why would you leave the hatch down? But I don't know, whatever. They run to a Millennium Falcon, they steal the aircraft, and there's some pretty cool scenes where she's flying through the like the conduits, and then the gun gets stuck, and then Finn has to shoot. She like flips the craft, and then Finn's like shooting it, and it's like bang. It's like, how'd you do that? Whoa, let's see that. So that was pretty cool, and it did feel like Finn and Rey did have a really cool on-screen chemistry as well. They really went well together in those scenes for the most part. There was that part though. In fact, one of the parts that the guy who walked out of the video was complaining about. Finn was grabbing Rey's arm where they're running away. He's like, oh, we gotta go. So he's like grabbing an arm to run away, and she's like, don't grab my arm, you know, I don't need, you know, I'm an independent woman, you know, I don't need no man, you know. She's kind of like that, and you know, I get that, because you know, she's been on her own a long time. She clearly can take care of herself the way she was using the staff. So, you know, you kind of get that she doesn't necessarily need somebody to, you know, she can run. I'm pretty sure she girl can fight, she can live on her own, she can survive. She trades stuff for like very little rations. She can run, you know what I mean? So you get that she doesn't necessarily need it. But then I did feel like they didn't need to do that again, and they did. I think they did it maybe another time, maybe one or two more times. I can't really remember right now, but they did it. They certainly did it more than once. They didn't really need to do it again, and I felt like doing it again just kind of over pushed that point a little bit too much. I get it from the first time, you know what I mean? You're doing it again. It's just like, come on, you know, come on. It's just a bit pushed now. It's a it's a little bit forced. But yeah, it's minor. That's a minor thing. You can always nitpick stuff out of movies, and that's what I feel with this movie. What you really do, what I'm really doing, is nitpicking all the things that I can say that I didn't necessarily like. I'm really just nitpicking stuff out of the movie, because some of them stand out a little bit more than others, but you know, ultimately none of it really affected the film. So onto the stuff that I really liked. So as I said before, the reveal of the Millennium Falcon was awesome. I liked how they used Han Solo's character, how they brought him back. Most of the references to previous movies were done really well. The humor in the film was spot on. BB-8 is a pretty cool character. I like that they didn't they didn't really use Luke Skywalker. He's literally just at the end of the movie where he just like turns his head around, doesn't even say any words. But but it works for the film. And when you look at the fight scenes, were done really well. I guess it was all choreographed in some way, but it wasn't as say martial arts influenced as the prequels movies, in particular with episode 1. That battle was awesome with Darth Maul. Still, that's still my personal favorite lightsaber battle. But the lightsaber battles in this were a bit more brutal. You could kind of feel the more intensity, where it's like, you know, you forget the fanciness of it, just down and dirty, and you really get that sense of that, and it works for this film. It's not that one's better than the other or whatever. It just works for this film, and I think that's more to do with the time of the film. You know, they're being released now in 2015 rather than being released in 1999. 1999, for those who remember, you know, you had like The Matrix, you had Crouching Tiger, I think a few years later, but there was certainly a lot of movies that were very martial arts influenced at that time. So having a martial arts influenced lightsaber battle worked for 1999. These days, yeah, Hollywood's kind of moved on a little bit. I still love martial arts movies, by the way, but you know, Hollywood's kind of moved on a little bit from that. So this felt something that was good for this movie, just this really down, dirty lightsaber battles. Overall, Kylo Ren was a pretty cool character, despite his Dawson's Creek looking face. But he was a pretty cool character, and he was a really interesting character as well, just from his. Even though I feel like we should know it would have been nice to know a little bit more about him, I did feel like overall what we did know about him, it would work for the movie, and it does set up a lot for second movies, which depends how you want to look at it, is either a good thing or a bad thing, because on one hand I do feel like any movie, whether it's going to lead on to sequels or not, should ultimately have its own closure, and this doesn't quite feel like it has its own closure because of the Starkiller thing, how they destroy that. It was very reminiscent of the episode 4 where they destroy the Death Star. In fact, they even say it in the movie. It's just like the Death Star but bigger, and that's pretty much what it is. That is not exactly the same, of course, but it's very reminiscent of that. But it was less of an emphasis on blowing up the Star Killer, so it did feel like that didn't really mean much. You know, when you're watching it, it just feel like that didn't mean much. So it leaves quite a lot open, which is good because we know they're planning on, you know, at least 2 more main movies and a few more spin-offs. So it's good in that respect, but it would have been nice to have a bit of a close. Again, kind of nitpicking a little bit. What I got in terms of the experience from the film was still pretty good. It's still pretty good. It was still, well, it was an okay film. More right than wrong, I'd say. Definitely more right than wrong. But what else did I think was cool about the film? So yes, C-3PO was pretty cool when Han Solo and Leia meet each other. They kind of look at each other, and he just sticks his head in a way. It's like, oh, do you remember? You probably don't recognize me because of my red arm. It's like, yeah, dude, come on. And that kind of humor works, you know, that kind of humor works. It wasn't overdone. It felt natural for the film. It fit in with what they were doing, and you expect it from the characters as well. And you could tell just when they were looking at each other that there's a lot that was happened just from the way they look at each other. You know, you can tell there's a deep history, and so much has happened just from, without them even saying anything, just the way they look at each other, and that was done really well. It's an enjoyable film. It's an enjoyable film. I didn't think it was brilliant. Certainly things that you can pick out, but I do feel like the things I'm picking out are really more fall more into the area of nitpicking. Overall, it's an okay film. It's enjoyable. It's worth watching in the movie theater. And I'd say worth watching once, which you're going to do. Let's be real, regardless of this review. Even if you haven't seen it, even if I've just given away I haven't given it all the spoilers. Actually, I mean, I haven't mentioned that Han Solo gets killed. I haven't mentioned. No, I did mention that Kylo Ren was Han Solo's son. We don't find out really who Emperor Supreme Leader Snoke is. Oh, by the way, so here's the thing about this theory going around about Jar Jar Binks being Supreme Leader Snoke. So yeah, he isn't, at least as far for right now he isn't. But let me say something on this. I still don't think he's Supreme Leader Snoke. Let me be clear on that. I said in my previous videos, I think that theory is a little bit stretched, and I still think that theory is a little bit stretched. However, what I will say for this, just for now, because it is true. We don't really know who Supreme Leader Snoke is. All we see of him is him in hologram form. We don't actually see him. We just see his image in a hologram. And it's not unthinkable that he's wearing some kind of disguise. So he probably isn't. I mean, to be clear, I don't think he's wearing a disguise. I'm just saying it's not unthinkable. So there's still a little bit of hope for that Jar Jar Binks fairy, just a tiny little bit. I don't think it's gonna happen though, but just for the sake of considering all aspects. But anyway, that's what I think of Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. Let me know what you think if you've seen it, or if you haven't seen it, let me know what you think of this video, of my sort of a review that probably serves no purpose to anybody because you're just going to go see it anyway. If you like this video, give it a like and share it amongst your friends. If you didn't like it, give it a dislike and share it amongst your enemies. Either way, let me know your reasons in the comments. Subscribe if you have not already. Thank you for watching, and until next time, may the Force be with you.